somebody made a comment, because sometimes Christian pops into the video and says hi, and somebody made a comment and I said his name. So he yelled at me from another room, which is one of my pet peeves. And I immediately went to that place like, why are you yelling at me from across the room? And I went off on like, I'm not talking at you, we're talking about you. And he kept
Yeah.
yelling. And I'm like, I'm on this live, and right in the middle of the video, I'm like, you're annoying me.
Welcome to Amy Liz Harrison's podcast, Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy, a Gen Xer who overcame her struggle with alcohol to become a best-selling author and mental health advocate. She shares stories of hope and offers ideas for others struggling with mental health challenges. One thing is for sure, you'll leave with something to chew on. And now, here's your host, Amy Liz Harrison.
Well, greetings, compadres. Oh my goodness. You would not believe this. I've got Daniel Garza here today, and oh my goodness, we're talking about time management, and we're talking about just kind of what time is this? And, he was afraid that he was late, but I was thinking I was showing up at the wrong time for this recording, but I wasn't sure. And so what is amazing is that none of that matters. We're here, we're good now. And I'm just so thankful to the universe that I get this time with Daniel. And so I'm going to read about him to you guys in case you are driving or doing something else right now that requires your full attention. This man, I can't even tell you guys, I started reading his bio and I was like, wait, what? What? I got the sudden crazy ADD things happening all of a sudden. It was the best. I was like, I can't believe all the stuff he does. And people who are so skilled and talented and they have this incredible ability to have this breadth and depth of their offerings, they're shining stars. They just really are. And so I am super excited to introduce Daniel to you. And P.S., he is a sober curator. So I know that some of you are very familiar with the Sober Curator website. And that is exciting for me because I am a newer sober curator, I think, than Daniel is. And so, yeah, I think it's such an amazing group of people. And so I wanted to give that quick shout out. Here we go, you guys. Daniel Garza has been a patient leader for more than 20 years. He speaks publicly about HIV, anal cancer, and mental health. Daniel shares his story on social media through several campaigns such as Positively Fearless. He volunteers for organizations such as Radiant Health Centers and worked with the NMAC as a language justice consultant and as a facilitator training new advocates. So he's also got a company, you guys. He's got a company. It's a production company. And he and his partner, Christian, have a live stream content. Well, I asked him if he was a podcast. It's not. It's a live stream now. And the content is geared toward adding positive messages to the HIV, cancer, and LGBTQ communities, which thank you. Thank you for that, Daniel. And he's also a certified life coach. What? He's got a focus on spirituality. His program, The Alignment, is geared towards reducing burnout. Who doesn't need that? He's also a published author, y'all. So I can't wait to hear about that too. So he's got this book. It's called Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game. Coolest title ever. I love. And he's a Reiki master. What? And a spiritual coach. Okay, I'm just going to stop talking. I'm going to let him talk. And Daniel, first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on. And I would love to hear about however much or as little as you want to talk about your background, your recovery. Take it away, Daniel.
Cool. Well, let me just start by saying that we're recording this, and as we're recording, it started at 11:11. So that's a good sign right off the bat. So yeah,
Yes,
so
it
let's
is.
let's let's just put that energy out there. Amy, thank you so much for the invitation. I so appreciate, and there is something so amazing before I get into the whole story. There's something so amazing about hearing somebody read your bio and talk about you. I teach a bio writing course or workshop for advocates, and they don't understand sometimes at the beginning why it's important to write your bio out. And I explain to them, wait till somebody reads it. And at the end of the workshop, I read their bio, and the light that comes on their face and the shine in their eyes that somebody is reading who they are, to be acknowledged by somebody else, is amazing. So I appreciate when I do interviews and they read my bio first, because I'm like, is that really me? That's awesome. That's so awesome. So thank you for having me. Um,
Love it.
I guess yes, I do all that. When I was just in a meeting right before this recording, and we were talking about elevator pitches and starting our own business, and I shared with them that one of my mottos is, if you think I can do it, I know I can do it.
Mm.
Because usually people see more in us than we do ourselves, and we have such tunnel vision about what we're capable of. But somebody who sees us from across sees so much more than what we do. And so if somebody ever approaches you and say, hey, would you want to be part of this? Accept the invitation, because you probably can. You just didn't realize you could. So most of the things that you talk about in my bio have been opportunities that were given to me. Somebody who looked at me and said, hey, I've been watching you. I think you could do this. And my response is always like, okay. And they're like, have you done it before? I'm like, no, but you think I can, or you think I have. So fool you. Let's fool the rest of the world.
I love
Um,
it.
so yeah, so part of my resume includes acting, stand-up comedy. We produce, direct, and host our live stream shows, and we've produced for other companies. HIV, anal cancer, and mental health related to health issues. So health-related PTSD is what I talk about in my advocacy. As a anal cancer survivor, during my recovery, it's when I became a Reiki master. I was already doing intuitive card readings. My alter ego is the card Devo, and he's the one that does the card readings. And then during the lockdown, because I was bored, I decided to get my life coaching certificate, which I combined with spiritual guidance that was I was already doing. So I'm a transpersonal coach now, which is the official title. And I created a program called the Alignment, which is a deck of cards that can be used in coaching sessions
Mm.
to identify, acknowledge, and break down barriers that are causing us burnout, but that also stop us from achieving personal and professional goals.
Mm.
So I'm already have clients working with that. In fact, we're on the eve of me traveling to New Orleans to a conference to present this to healthcare professionals as a burnout workshop. So this is the first workshop under my company name, which is Little Mexican Productions Inc., under my product, which is the Alignment, representing myself, which is for somebody that was ready to die so many times in my life. Just side note, I've nearly died 5 times. Disclaimer: I did not die. I came back, and then yes, over the lockdown, I wrote Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game in English and Spanish, which is a guided meditation book for children. It's something you can read to your child. And let me tell you, some of my adult friends bought it and they kept it because it's a good book for somebody who's not familiar with meditation. It's very simple to read. It's a quick book, but it's also an exercise within the story. So it allows you to tap into yourself and meditate through your energy. So if you're feeling grumpy, if you're feeling upset or sad, it'll guide your energy to align yourself. So it's a mini alignment for children. And then I just started a gig doing voice description narration for a company. So for people who are visually impaired, they can hit a button on their TV. You can do this now in any other shows. And there's a voice that tells you what's happening in the scene if you can't see it. And I'm the narrator for 2 shows on Roku now. So they'll be coming out later this summer. So again, somebody thought I could do it. They called and said, "Hey, do you want to audition for this?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" And I got the job, and here I am. So yeah,
Amazing. That's
so
amazing.
that's just part of the whole story. But I'll stop now for a second.
Dude, okay, that's incredible. First of all, I love that because I think that, you're so right. I know in my own life how self-doubt will creep in and I'll immediately think it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, I can't do it. Nah, I'm not your person. Like, get somebody else, oh, I have no experience in that. And it's sort of like, well, yeah, if somebody else wants me to do it, why would I not try it out? If they have some kind of a belief that I can pull it off, why would I not give that a whirl? I mean, you're right, because opportunity, right? I mean, that's like a big thing. A lot of people don't get opportunities. They don't get asked.
Yeah, and there's so many. Part of the advocacy work that I do and part of the trainings and presentations that I do, I always talk about social norms, culture, and religion that are some of the biggest barriers and blockages in our lives. The way you were raised, the culture you come from, and the religion that your family practice will always try to stand in front of us. Imagine those as like three little monsters that will stand in front of you and be like, boo, don't come through. And if you allow them to scare you, if you allow fear to stop you, you get stuck in your comfort zone and you never reach anything else. And never is I'm extending the word, but it does allow us a moment to reflect. And when we stop and go, is it my intuition that's telling me don't do it? Or is it my fear that's telling me don't do it? And if it's your intuition, then listen. I mean, definitely if somebody's telling you, hey, come on this plane, we're gonna take you around the world, don't tell anybody. Well, trust your intuition, don't get on that plane. But if it's just fear that's stopping you because you don't believe, for instance, me, you don't believe that Latinos should have that opportunity, that a gay man should have that opportunity, um, that I'm over 50, that I shouldn't have. If that's just fear that's telling me don't do it, because you'll be disappointed, you may not succeed, you look foolish. Those are just fears. So anyway, I could go on and on that, but so whenever you're offered an opportunity and something tells you no, and it's right there on your belly, which is your solar plex, your power. If it's intuition, then trust your intuition. But if it's just fear and it comes from your head, then question it.
I
Does that make
love
sense?
it. Yeah, no, it completely makes sense. And that is fantastic. I think, one of the biggest things for me when I first got sober was the whole concept of fear was like, wait a minute. I thought, fear was being afraid of snakes and spiders, but I had no clue that it was really about, you know, what is below the surface of how I'm thinking, feeling, acting. What's really deep down in there that, oh, well, it's fear of rejection. It's fear of, not being good enough, fear of being wrong, not being smart enough, whatever it is. So yeah, that whole fear thing is such a big deal.
And part of the not to talk about my own program, but part of the alignment program is identifying the actual barrier that's there. Because
Mm,
you talk about like being foolish, doing something new and looking silly. That's the top of the layer. That's the top of the onion. The bottom sometimes could be that when you were a kid, you did something different and maybe your parents laughed at you, or your teacher thought it was silly, or your siblings or classmates made fun of you. So the barrier is not that you're afraid of looking silly. The barrier is the memory that you have from when
yes.
you were a kid. That's the actual barrier. That's what we need to talk about. Like, and the moment you try something and people laugh, you realize people are laughing with you and not at you.
Mm.
You've broken down that barrier. I just got chills. The people are you broke down that barrier, and you're like, oh, dang, like I didn't know I could do that. And ask any actor, ask comedians, public speakers. A lot of them maybe sometimes at one point had fear of being in front of people.
Mm.
And the moment they did something where people were like, oh my God, you're amazing, boom, it break down the barrier. And just to add to the sobriety part, I don't put that in my bio, but June 21st, 2023, I'll be 16 years, God bless, 16 years clean and sober. And
Congratulations.
thank you. How many fears did we find when we got into sobriety? It's like there was a door of surprises a box of surprises at our door that we open it, and they're like, the universe is like, well, now that you're feeling things and now that you have emotions again, do you remember all these fears that you had? And you're like,
Right.
no, and you're like, okay, let's work through them. And there are some that were resolved very early on in my sobriety, and there are some that I'm still working through now. And yeah, so we're continuously working through barriers in our lives. I don't think we ever stop.
I love that. And the whole, because it's real. You know what I mean? Like it's totally, it is an authentic, genuine, like what to expect, because I think sometimes I'll convince myself, oh, well, if I'm this much, I've just turned 12 years sober, well, by now I shouldn't be dealing with these character defects, or by now I should, have this one figured out. And it's like, nope, all I got to do is talk to people who've been down the path longer than I have. And they're like, no, these things keep showing up. I just get more tools, and I get to, and it's less threatening sometimes, because it's almost like, I loved your idea, that word picture of the box, opening the box, and here's those fears, like, hi again, because
Yeah,
it almost makes it less scary. It's, instead of it being like, oh my gosh, like this again, it's like, oh, yep, I know this, and this is gonna pass, and I've been down this road before, I see what this is, and somehow
yeah,
it just makes it like more tolerable.
yeah. It's if the idea of that box sitting in your doorstep when you get clean and sober doesn't work for you, and if you're already clean and sober and you're like, you continue, imagine it's a video game. It's a video game that you're continually going up levels and trying to defeat the fear monster. Let's call it that. And every level you pick up a new tool, a new sword, a new gun, whatever it is, to destroy this monster. But you know that as you go up levels, it's gonna pop up again, and you have to learn to destroy it again.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for me, relationships were always a fear,
Mm.
because a lot of the relationships that I got into while I was using it and drinking ended up horribly, or there was cheating, or there was some kind of abuse. And so when I got clean and sober, to get into a relationship was very difficult. I did not want to go through that again. And even though the universe kept telling me, like, dude, but you're clean and sober now, you can work through this, I was like, no, because I have what we call triggers. The trigger is that the moment my partner is not happy with something I do, I'm gonna I want to go out and do something.
Mm-hmm.
And but fear pops up and says, ha ha, the moment you have a disagreement with your boyfriend, I'm gonna attack you. And then I'm like, nope, I've got some tools. I've got therapy, I've got support systems, I've got meditation, whatever it is. I defeat the monster and I can work through relationships. But I just celebrated recording this yesterday. I celebrated 11 years. We celebrated. I say I like I was the only one. We celebrated 11 years together. And yeah, thank you. And
Yeah.
but just 2 days ago, 3 days ago, we got into a big fight. And I'm like, oh great. Like just before the 11th anniversary, we get into a fight. And I was sure we were gonna break up. I was like, I'm sure, like this is it. But we sat down and talked.
Mm.
And at the end, I realized you didn't break up because you didn't choose that path, and you didn't go that path because you had tools to help you work through this new part of you. You broke down this jungle unpaved road, and it helped you. And that's something to pat ourselves on the back for. I mean, we should sit down and go, that was pretty mature, Garza. Like you did good.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I know it's so weird almost to, I had I mean, I'm going to call it a heated disagreement with my husband last week. And I was like sitting there and I'm listening to myself talk. And kind of when I was out of the like intensity of the moment, I was like, it's just that my insecurities pop up when this happens. And, I feel this way. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm saying this, like, who are you? Because my old self, I mean, I would just run down the street screaming and slam the door behind me, you know? So,
Totally. I was making, okay, just since we're talking between us and nobody else is going to hear this, I was making dinner and on a TikTok, doing a TikTok live.
yeah.
And I have this little show called Cooking and Coaching. So while I'm making dinner, I'm doing some live coaching for people on TikTok. And somebody made a comment because sometimes Christian pops into the video and says hi, and somebody made a comment and I said his name. So he yelled at me from another room, which is one of my pet peeves. And I immediately went to that place, like, why are you yelling at me from across the? And I went off on like, I'm not talking at you, we're talking about you. And he kept
Yeah.
yelling, and I'm like, I'm on this live, and right in the middle of the video, I'm like, you're annoying me. And then he got disturbed because I said you were annoying me, and I got disturbed. And I just turned off the TikTok, and then I was mad because like you made me turn off the TikTok. And my first reaction was like, screw you, I'm not making dinner for you anymore.
Right.
But but it was Cinco de Mayo. I was making nachos,
Oh,
and I was like, but I really want these nachos. Like, no, I'm gonna finish making these nachos, but I'm not gonna be happy about it. And
right.
and then while I'm still cooking, he comes into the room. Now, one of the benefits of our relationship is that he's also in a 12-step program.
Mm,
So we have the steps, we worked it together, and we know how to measure ourselves and go, okay, this
mm.
is not the real reason I'm mad. This is the reason. So he's like, were you mad that I came into? I'm like, no, I was mad because I'd hate for you to yell at me from across the rooms. Like,
Mhm.
and he's like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't realize I did that. I was like, yes. And so we had a conversation. I won't bore you with it. But like you said, at while I'm cooking, finishing cooking, I'm like, wow, like that was a very mature way of handling the situation. Because I could have easily thrown the nachos in the trash and be like, I'm going out for dinner by myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, 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 let's work this through. And in the end, the nachos were delicious. Uh,
There you go.
and we watched a funny movie and everything turned out great.
I love it. I love it. You're so honest. And, because that's real life. That's what it is. And I love that also, sidebar, that we're like surprised when we can do something mature. Like, it's like, oh my gosh. Like,
Because there was a time when doing the most immature thing was the most natural thing to do. Like you
yeah,
said, slamming doors, yelling, cussing people out.
yep.
I'm done with you. I mean, that was my favorite. I'm done with you.
I'm done with you.
And which was ultimately an excuse to go down to the bar and drink and
Yeah,
and and share with everybody why I was there. And
right,
and which led to more dumb things.
right.
And but I'm 52 now. I don't have the energy for dumb things anymore. Like it's like I
Mhm.
I I'm a 7 o'clock in my pajamas having a cup of coffee kind of person now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so that's where we are.
I love it so much. And I have to say this too, because something else that you mentioned when you were talking earlier about the fears, I was thinking about old tapes, right? That tell us, that, oh, you can't do this, or why would you stand up and try that? And that's dumb and all this stuff. And I have to just quickly tell you that yesterday, my daughter, who is in the 4th grade, they're having a talent show at the school. And I just so admire her like fearlessness. I mean, she can just get up there and just do her thing. And before getting sober, and actually before being in the recovery program, which one of the side benefits of being in a 12-step fellowship is that you get a lot of experience public speaking. And man, I'm telling you, my knees used to shake. Like I used to be like, I mean, clammy, sweaty, the whole thing. And now it's so normal that I mean, I don't have any fear around it. And it's such a change. And so then I can watch her as a fourth grader get up there and not have fear and just do her thing. And I love that because it's a good reminder to me that, if I can just capture that spirit of like, childhood kind of like, I don't have any concerns, like I'm just going to do me. I mean, I just think it's such a beautiful thing to watch. And I'll wrap this part up, this little sidebar I'm telling you, by telling you that I was helping my friend sort of judge these auditions for this talent show. And I had a conversation with the kids when I walked in, and I was like, "Hey guys, just to let you know, this is a safe space and this is a positive environment, and we're not going to do any laughing at anybody. We're not going to do that kind of like, kind of attitude kind of thing. That's not happening here. Like we're going to be positive and edifying and encouraging, and we're going to support each other because it's really hard to get up here. So everybody here is going to be positive." And I kind of was being stern with them, but you know what? It was weird. It was like that took the, nervous energy out of the room. And then people, like these kids were like pumped. And so that was neat to see too, because I thought, God, I should do that in my own life more often with like adults, just like, no, I believe in you, or no, this, that, because self-doubt will creep in.
Girl, and I okay, so I was a dancer. There's a lot of things that I put in my bio, but I was a dancer
Wow.
as a kid. I danced from kindergarten all the way through high school. And the first time that I danced, it's so funny because I danced for Cinco de Mayo pageant. And the first thing I ever did was La Cucaracha. This is back in Dallas, Texas. And I remember when it's one of those vivid ide things. Ms. Martinez was our pre-K teacher. And I remember they walked in and they were like, "We need volunteers for Cinco de Mayo." And I was like, "Right here, hand up." I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what they wanted me for, but I was like, I don't even know that I knew what volunteer really meant, but I was on it. So I danced and I think back and I channel little me, which if you talking about Funny Bunny, in the back of the book, there's a picture of me at that age. And I remember that kid. I remember that kid who was fearless, didn't give a damn. He was like, "I'm gonna do this because something intuitively is telling me that I should do it." And like I said, I danced all the way through high school, and every once in a while, I have to channel little Daniel and go, "Okay, dude, I I need you right now to take lead on this and just give me the courage to not care, to
Mm.
not care that people are looking, that what people are thinking, to not care that even nobody cares." Like doing a podcast, like doing a TikTok live. Sometimes there's one person on that TikTok watching me, but I make sure that I give them like all the attention, make them the most important person, pretend that I'm presenting to a million people online because they deserve that. But that's what little Daniel would do. I remember dancing and really dancing like nobody was watching. Like I didn't care. I
Mm.
just wanted to dance and do it. And so for those of you listening, think about the last fearless thing that you did and how old were you? And whenever you needed, call that version of you and say, "Hey, get me out of the way. You go first. Be fearless, lead the way, open the path, and I will follow." Because by the time you realize that the younger version of you is in full action, all your fears will stop melting away. And you're like, "Oh, I can do this. I can do this." And I mean, anyway, it just releases a lot of those tensions and fears. And so kudos to your daughter for doing that.
Ah,
Yeah.
thank you.
All the vibes, all the good vibes going to her for this.
All the good vibes. Well, speaking of children, tell me about your book.
Okay. So Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game. I wrote it during the lockdown. I wrote it at the beginning of the lockdown, somewhere at the beginning of 2020. And right as soon as the lockdown was starting, I started writing it. I'm trying to go back into my story. And one night, I always wanted to write a book. I've always wanted to write a book. I want to write my memoir as well, and I had some other books in mind. I just need, I just need a little time to get down and do them among the other million things that I do. And so I'm watching a TV show, The Good Witch. If anybody knows the show, The Good Witch, it was one of my favorite shows, and it's off the air now, but you can stream it on, I think, on Hulu. And so it's a story about this witch, and she has this great connection with people. And there's an episode where this dad is talking to his daughter, and she's crying because she has chicken nuggets or chicken strips, and she wants the white sauce, not the red sauce. And the dad's like, I don't understand what you want. So the good witch comes down to her level and says, like, what is it that you want? Like, we'll get it for you. She's like, it's this white sauce. And she's like, ranch? And the little girl's like, yes. And the dad's like, how'd you do that? It's like, you just have to get at their level and talk to her as a kid. Like, we forget that they're kids. You have kids, so you know this. And I have a lot of nephews, so I've always been that kind of person. Like, okay, get at their level. So that like, we want to make them grown-ups, but they're not grown-ups. So stop treating them as grown-ups. Okay, so that's the story. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, there has to be a book to help parents help their kids channel this energy, so that instead of, because I was one of those kids that my parents were like, why are you mad? Why are you sad? Why are you bored? Why are you this? And their go-to was, you have cousins in Mexico that don't have what you have. And I was such a little smart mouth that I would always tell them, well, I don't know them. How do you know they don't have all these things? Do you know them? And of course, that always got me in trouble and grounded for a little bit. But as I was thinking about this book, I'm like, there has to be a way to talk to children, or a story to tell them, hey, I know you're grumpy. How about we play this little game? And if at the end of the game you're still grumpy, we'll talk about it. But if you're not, then we've worked through the energy. So it's a Reiki guided meditation for kids. So as a parent or the person reading it, you're not only guiding them through the energy, but you're helping them move their energy around so that it fits them better and they can understand it better. Okay. So the story starts up with Bunny woke up grumpy one day and didn't know why. And this was the time mommy thought it was the time to teach him the colors game. So she takes him outside, says, take a deep breath. And then the rest of the story is him working through his chakras and aligning them. And there's a couple of little exercises that they do. There's a little imagination, because every part starts, imagine the color red, imagine the color orange. So you're imagining the chalk colors. There's a little exercise or something silly in the chapter so that they can channel all that. So I wrote a first draft, and I wanted to be the new Mexican Dr. Seuss. That was my goal. And I sent it to my publisher, who was my former producer of my podcast. But he since had opened a publishing house and was going to publish my book. I sent it to him, all excited, like, I have the new bestseller. And he wrote back, he goes, who is this? This isn't your voice. He goes, you need to redo it. And it just irritated me. I was like, how dare you? The audacity of questioning my. I really did get really irritated. I put it down and said, it's not for me. This is not. Talk about fears and doubts. One rejection caused me to go into that fear space and go, okay, this is not for me. This is not what I'm supposed to do. So then August 7th, 2020, my mom passed away. And which is interesting, because today is, we're recording this on the 10th. Today is Mexican, in Mexico, it's Mother's Day today.
Okay.
So so if I get a little emotional, okay. So my mom passes away August 7th, 2020, and she was in Texas. I'm in California, right in the middle of pandemic. It was like, you can't fly. There's no way to go. So I wasn't there for the funeral, and watched it all on Zoom, which was really sad. And I was staying at my boyfriend's house in Culver City. And after that, I'm like, I needed some time alone. So I went back to my place in Laguna. And so I'm in Laguna Beach by myself, and I turned the TV on, and I wanted something comforting. So I turned on The Good Witch again. And I forget what episode they were in, but it had to do with moms and the mom energy. And of course, I'm bawling. And at this point, it's probably like 11 o'clock at night. And I said, okay, let's like something intuitively, my angels, my spirit guides, something was like, okay, pick up that laptop and start working on that book. And so I did. I picked up the laptop. I deleted everything I've written and started rewriting the book and sent it to I finished it in 2 days, sent it to my publisher again, Kevin Moyers, who has since passed away also. He passed away in 2021. I have to say, one of my best friends, mentor, just, I miss him tremendously, tremendously. So I sent it to him the next day and he read it. And aside from a couple of little changes and grammatical errors, he sent it back. He goes, "This is your voice. This is you." And the book came out, that was October. No, that was August of 21. The book came out May of 2021 is when we finally got the copies out. And it started selling really well, but then Kevin died in October 2021 and it stopped. We had the publishing account closed. So I have about 1,000 books sitting in my living room that I need to sell. So I'll send you the links for people who might be
Yes.
interested. But it's for sale now, and it's a love. Don't make me cry, Amy. It's a thank you and and I love you to my mom and to Mr. Moyers, my publisher. Here we are.
Powerful. That is powerful. Like, I've got like all these goosebumps. I think, the most incredible part of your persisting and trying again, you know what I mean? Is like not letting that first rejection hold you back, but following that inner guidance to try again. I mean, that's huge because I don't know, I'm such a big like proponent of if we start teaching our kids how to do that inner work and how to fertilize that inner tree that we have, if we start teaching them how to do that young, just how healthy they could potentially be, in that mental health space as they grow up. And I just think that's so huge. I know that for my teenagers who are now young adults, during COVID, that was just, it was horrible on everybody for varieties of reasons and layers of complications and problems. And for these guys, to be missing their graduations and their milestones and all this, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's like a big deal to them. And, I mean, I can't judge it. I had my high school graduation. Do you know what I mean? So, but it's like every little thing that comes up, small, huge, whatever, to be able to cultivate that space and to teach young kids to look at their chakras and that's incredible. And like, I want to thank you for doing that because I feel like it's just this space that we need to change this, in our schools and in the way we raise our kids, so that they have tools that they can use instead of like, well, why'd you get that B minus, you should have gotten an A and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like so much pressure and they're just young and, figuring out who they are. And it's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
I look at it this way. It's if you've ever flown and you've ever sitting in the window seat and you look out the window, and I'm sure many of us have used that term. It looks like people look like ants down there. Look at the little cars. It looks so
Yeah.
small. Our problems, our issues are like that.
Mm.
Somebody else's problems looks like ants. And sometimes you look at it and you go, that's such a small thing in your life. But you're right. For somebody who was a teenager, a senior in 2020, and they didn't get to do at 16, 17, 18, that was the highlight of their lives. They've been working towards this graduation. And yes, the universe did what it did. And it took it away from them, but it doesn't make it any less just because we've already been through it. And I hated when people said, I use the word, I hate it when people said, oh, they'll get over it. I'm like, no, no, because I didn't get to go to my graduation, and it still haunts me to this day that I didn't go. Long story, that's for another episode. But we have to acknowledge that people's problems were were that real. Like for me, one of the things that haunts me, it's not being able to go to my mom's funeral
Oh,
during
can't
the
imagine.
lockdown.
Yeah.
And somebody from across the street can be looking at me going, "Oh, that's such a small problem." This happened to me. And I can be looking at their problems like your problem is smaller than mine. But again, it's the distance that makes it look smaller. It doesn't make it less small. It's just the perception. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Um, but the book, for those of you listening, is it going to solve the world mental health issues with children? Probably not. But my hope is that if you have children, or if you want to get it for yourself and you read it, and it allows you the 10 minutes it's going to take you to read it, to collect yourself, to align your energy, and to really separate the the actual barrier versus the make believe one, or the fake one you made up, then my job is done. And it worked. It worked. Now, like I said, I have friends who are adults who bought the book as support to give away, and they're like, I need to buy another one because I'm not giving it away. I need a new one. And some of my friends who have children have written to me and said, one of them is a really good friend of mine. He's like, when my little girl gets upset because we say no to her, or she can't have something in the moment, she will say, fine, I'm going to go read Bunny. And she'll go, and she's like, she can't read yet, but she knows what the colors represent because we've read it to her now. She'll flip through the book and
Yeah.
do the exercise, and she'll chat. I'm like, dude, that is exactly why I wrote this book. So job done. Like,
Fantastic.
good, Garza. Good job, Garza.
Yeah, good job, Garza. That's incredible. I love it so much. I just sense such a light from you. I'm excited to continue to watch all this good stuff happening. Like, congratulations, by the way, on going to this conference that you're going to tomorrow. That's a huge deal.
Thank you.
It's a big, big deal. And I also know, and I want to make sure I touch on this before we get ready to kind of wrap it up, but you're doing some incredible work in the sober curator space,
No, how did that even happen?
right?
So for those of you listening, I'm on pretty much every social media page, and I don't remember exactly when I started them. I think I started them during the lockdown, but I started doing 1 minute horoscopes, and I think I started them on TikTok because TikTok back then was only giving me 1 minute to record. So I would record horoscopes. So I go through the horoscopes in 1 minute, and I got pretty good at it. I'm really good at it. Let me just say that. Let me I got really good at it. So I would start posting them on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. I think that's all the other pages. And then there's some other pages that I posted at. So then when Sober Curator came around and I joined, I was like, well, what can I contribute? And I didn't want to write something because there were people who were writing some really good articles. And I'm like, And I didn't know what else to write about. So I said, hey, I could contribute with my horoscopes if you think it'll help. And we have to say hello to Elise, who manages Sober Curators.
Shout out,
And,
Elise. We love you.
and she said, yes, do that. So, like a lot of us needed during the lockdown, we needed something that was consistent, that we can rely on a consistent basis. So for me, every Sunday night, I would record my horoscopes, which again, you can find them on all of the social bases. Please follow me. And over the last 3 months, so the last 3 months, okay, let's say the last 2 months, Monday mornings, the numbers spike at the Sober Curator pages because my horoscopes, apparently forgot my horoscopes, and I've been having the high numbers on that too. So I've become popular, I guess, as a sober horoscope intuitive person, which is cool. Like, cool.
amazing, actually. Like, it always spikes. Like, you are the one single solitary thing that like is bumping it all up on Monday. Like, it's amazing.
It's one of the few times that I can say I'm getting high, and it's a good thing.
Yeah,
No
totally.
pun intended on that. But again, it's one of those things we talk about. One of those things that I was like, who's gonna want to listen to this? Who's gonna want to listen? And in the beginning, there were that many people watching it, and then now I have people that if I forget to post them, they usually go up Sunday nights. But if I forget to post it, or I'm busy Sunday night, and Monday morning, there's friends like, hey, where's the horoscope? Or did you post them? Or what's mine? Or people commenting is like, you were so accurate on this, or that's what's going on in my life. Or they'll write me like the next week and saying, what you said last week, this is the outcome of that. But again, I've been practicing my intuitiveness and energy work for 11 years now. So I would hope that I'm good at my work.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
definitely are. That is evidence for sure. And so here's what I want to say. First of all, before I want to hear like all your social media channels and everything so everybody can follow you. But I just want to say how much I appreciate you following that inner calling to share your gifts and your talents with the world, Daniel, because it's a bigger deal than I think, we sometimes realize. We're just like, oh, this isn't, it's not that great. No, it's great. It's huge. And especially the different, people groups that, you're able to talk to who might not find quite everybody as relatable as you. You know what I mean? And so this is an incredible gift that you have, and you're just willing, which I love your willingness and your authenticity. And yeah, so I just want to say thank you for that. And thank you for also for coming on. What a gift it is to get to hear about all of this. And I want to hear like all the different places that everybody can follow you and find you.
Sure. Well, first, let me just let everybody. I am not always this pleasant, so let me just put that out there. I'm human. I'm human like everybody else. You can ask Christian, my partner. There are moments when I'm like frustrated, I get
Yeah.
overwhelmed. As a survivor of different health issues, and having survived right after cancer, there was an emergency room visit where I was brought back 3 times, and two more when I was younger. So I've actually been brought back 5 times in my life. In fact, my sister in Mexico has a joke. She always says, like, she's like, you know how to do everything except die. And that just shows the level of sarcasm in the family.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I get overwhelmed, and I get stressed, and I get anxious, and I get nervous, and I feel insecure. And sometimes, I mean, like everybody, sometimes we yell at the people that are closest to us. So, but to have somebody ask you, to have somebody to you and say, hey, I know about you, I've watched you, I want to hear more. That is such an honor for anybody. So for anybody listening, if anybody ever asks you to be interviewed, please don't say no. Please don't say, I don't know how to talk in public. Please don't throw out, oh, I don't have such an interesting story. No, somebody's been watching you, somebody's admiring you. Take that opportunity and just run with it. It's like George of the Jungle. Hold on to that vine and just see where it leads you, see where you land. You never know what amazing doors it's going to open for you. And so
True.
please take the opportunities. And then, so yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Daniel G. Garza. Just look, remember the G in the middle, because that makes a difference between me and other Daniel Garzas. So Daniel G. Garza on Instagram and Twitter. I am Daniel G. Garza, all one word. I am Daniel G. Garza. On YouTube, I'm under my production company, which is Little Mexican Productions Inc. It's LILMESICAN, and there's a whole story behind that. You can private message me. I'll tell you the story about where the name came from. But it's Little Mexican Productions Inc. Find me on LinkedIn also at Daniel G. Garza. Twitter. I think on Twitter, I am Daniel G. Garza. But if you Google Daniel G. Garza, you'll find me. Like I said, there's a lot of Daniel Garzas, but if you It's one of my adult jokes. If you find the G, you'll find me. But
I love it. I love
um,
it.
well,
Dude. Yeah.
but yeah, one of my favorite places to send people is go to my YouTube page. If you find the YouTube page, you can also look Daniel G. Garza. There's videos of the Christian and Daniel show, which I do with Christian, my partner. There is the Zodiac show, which is a card reading show that I do with my friend Richard Wayne Kilgo. The second, there is Put It Together live stream, which is the podcast that became the live stream, and those are interview shows. You can find comedy that I've done, stand-up comedy videos. You can find other projects that I've worked on that I put the videos on there. So if you go to my video, oh, and I still have my predictions for 2023. So if you, I know we're in May, but you can go back and watch the video for the predictions for the year, and it's tagged, so you can find your horoscope, your sign, and follow it. And lastly, I do a lot because God, the universe, gave me an opportunity. Uh, many people have said this to me. You're not dead because you still have work to do, and um, and you hear it often enough that you have to believe it. Some people would think that it's overly confident or conceited or cocky, but when you, the journey, the timeline that I have of my life, uh, to been through the things that I've been through and survive, and this is looking at myself outside the box as a third person. The things that my body, my mind, and my spirit have been through in 52 years, there is no way I cannot take more opportunities and more chances. Like I've lost so many people in my life that had so much potential and so much more to give, that if I can still breathe and speak and move, then what a disrespect to not do something more with my life. Not necessarily to other people, but to myself, to God, and to the universe, for them to say, dude, we're going to give you more chances. And me say, well, thank you, but I'm going to stay home, just chill. I mean, what a disrespect to myself to do that. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. It's so well said. Yeah.
And here I am. I'll keep kicking, and I don't know. I've auditioned for some big jobs, so wish me luck on that. I hope to do more stand-up comedy. My goal in life is to have a syndicated talk show. I would love to be in front of a studio audience and share what I know. And if you allow me, this conference, did I mention what the conference was? I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but the conference is the National Latinx Conference on HIV and HPV. So it's a huge conference, and I can't remember if I told you or somebody else. Anyway, so this conference, I helped with the very first conference in South Texas back in 2001. I was volunteering for this agency when they did the very first conference. And now, all these years later, I'm going back under Little Mexican Productions, Inc., with my own product, presenting to them as a fellow, as a colleague. So it's and it's paying I hope everybody understands what this means. It's paying respect to Daniel, who was diagnosed with AIDS in 2000, who weighed 108 pounds and survived. It's going back and telling him, dude, all that that you worked on, all the strength, all the tears, all that. Look where it got us. Look where it got us. So I am anxious as all hell right now. I am nervous because I present Friday, but I'm nervous because these are my colleagues. These is people that I've grown up with in advocacy. They have seen me go through a lot of things in my life, and a lot of them have messaged me and say, I know you're presenting, I'm going to be there. So to know that they are taking time when they can go see so many other presenters at this conference. They've chosen to go sit in my space and allow me to show them what I'm doing. It's an honor. It's just an honor. So it's huge.
And
Huge.
having it come full circle like that. That's incredible.
Girl, it's 108 pounds anymore, by all means. I'm 23 years older. This is 6 years in the making of this program, which I would love to at one point share with you, and we'll have to
Yeah.
time so I can show you what it's about.
Love it. So
To-
incredible. Go ahead. Keep going.
No,
Sorry.
no, it's for anybody out there to listen. I hope you don't think like, oh, look at him, he's bragging. It's just we have to, we have to. And if you haven't had a time, please take some time after you're done listening. Take some time to look at your timeline in your life. Look at your timeline and see how you've grown mentally, how you've grown physically, and how you've grown spiritually. And then applaud yourself, pat yourself on the back, get yourself something nice. It could either be a new pair of shoes, which are life shoes, or get yourself a banana split because you love sweets, but celebrate your timeline because you've made it here. You've made it here. Wherever you're at, wherever you started, you've made it here. And I'm pretty dang sure that in your timeline, there is something amazing that you've accomplished. But because you can't see the whole timeline, you've missed it. So I'll leave you with this. I have when it comes to support system, I have what I call the 3x3s. We should have 3 people who support us personally and 3 people that support us professionally. And this should be 1 person that you could go to and vent, and they're just there to listen to you. 1 person who is there to give you tough love, and the other person is your ride and die. Yeah, the 3rd person is the one that will pick you up and be like, where are we going? The shovels in the trunk. Like, what are we doing?
So good.
And if you can't see the greatness that you've accomplished in your timeline, call one of your 3x3 people. Call one of them and say, hey, you've known me this long. Can you honestly tell me what is one thing that you think I've done that's completely awesome, and celebrate that? I don't care if it was last week, if it was a year ago, if it was 10 years ago, celebrate it. And then from this moment on, start celebrating the accomplishments and tell people about it, because that's how we know you're awesome, because we have the ability to share. So anyway, that's me sharing. Go get your 3x3s and check out your timeline. So is that too much? I hope I didn't say too much.
No, dude, I cannot think of a better way to end. That is so perfect and right on. And Daniel, I look forward to watching to see all the fantastic places you go and all the wonderful work that you're doing. I'm flabbergasted. It's incredible. So thank you.
My pleasure. And I'll be recording my presentation. So
Good.
go follow me on YouTube so you can watch the video a week from now. 2 weeks from now.
I love it.
But go check out my YouTube because my video will probably be there for you to watch.
You heard it here, guys. Follow him on YouTube. You can see it. I can't wait. Personally, I'm excited. And I am excited to buy some copies of Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game.
So if you go to my webpage, littlemexicanproductions.com/Grumpy Bunny. So LILMESICAN productions, all one word, .com/Grumpy Bunny. And you'll be able to find it there. It's in English and in Spanish. And since you're buying from me, if when you buy it, you tell me who's it for, I will personally sign it for you. So you'll have an autographed copy of the book.
That's awesome. Love it. Daniel, thank you so much. And
my pleasure.
To the rest of you, be kind, rewind. Thank you for the honor of your time. Take what you like and leave the rest behind, and go follow Daniel.
Thank you so much for listening to Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy. Amy Liz Harrison is a best-selling author, speaker, 12-step coach, meditation teacher, and recovery advocate. To find out more, please visit amylizharrison.com. You can keep up with Amy on all platforms by following @AmyLizHarrison. Please subscribe and review this podcast. It means so much to us if you do.